Hello everyone, it's Brett here, Lionheart84, and I've been waiting for a suitable break in the weather to do my last Sunday monthly garden tour of the year. I'm filming this on the 6th of November and most things are going dormant now, so there wouldn't be anything to show probably in a December tour, but there are a few things of interest to do a quick garden walk around and see what's pretty much fully dormant now and what's likely to be happening in the next couple of weeks. So it has been raining and raining and raining here for the last few days with very few breaks, so everything's pretty waterlogged, but nevertheless I can still have a look around and see what there is to look at. So without further ado, we shall start off now. Just a quick look at my Crimson Bonfire peach. You can see this is now pretty much fully dormant. There's a few leaves left on it, slightly earlier than last year, possibly because it actually suffered a bit from drying out as it happens, but you can actually look at these shoots and see that there's going to be, from the looks of things, lots of flowers on it next year. So this is my hardy Tamarillo here. It seems to have dropped all its leaves. I'm not sure why. I thought they were sort of evergreen. It's got a few leaves left here and a few leaves left here. Might be because it's somewhat pot bound. That's not really too much of a concern. Didn't get any fruits on my in-ground Ugly Molyneux Flambeau this year, or at least none that I noticed. I've no idea why. I think because it was too hot for it and it's in full sun, because we had that freak sort of summer weather back in July, and I think that probably caused it to drop all of the flower buds, but or at least the fruits that are just set. The kiwi berries are completely dormant now. As you can see, I've still got some of my Tamarillos outside, taking a chance on them in the November weather at the moment. So the blueberries are now completely dormant. Next to them I've got my Mammoth pineapple guava. Now the Triumph has pretty much dropped all of its fruits, but the Mammoth at the moment is still holding all of its fruits, or virtually all its fruits. Actually, I'll tell a lie, there's one on the floor through there. So this is the first Mammoth that I've had this year. Let me reach through and pick that up. Not a bad sized fruit, so I'll probably do a fruit tasting later on that today. Just tucked away underneath here is my Outdoor Myers lemon, which is not looking too bad really. Surprisingly has actually got a couple of lemons on it, although they're very small, so I don't think they're going to be getting to what I call an edible size. Nevertheless, it's looking in reasonable health. I'm just going to pause the video a minute. Sorry, the reason I paused that because I noticed a lemon on the floor that had clearly been knocked off. Looks like there's some damage to the plants in there, so I should think a cat, or more likely a fox, has been there damaging things. You can see more Mammoth pineapple guavas or feijoas through there. Anyway, let's carry on very quickly because it's going to probably rain again soon. I'm walking on the grass here. It's absolutely sodden and waterlogged. This is my unnamed variety of pineapple guava. Again, it's not produced edible fruits on it. It's got a few tiny little fruits that are unlikely to be edible, but it is still used, serving its purpose as a pollinator. But I may take this out this winter and put a name variety. There's still a few flower buds on my Amethyst, and as you can see, the bumblebee is probably very happy to be seeing a few flowers open, as there is actually something for it to get food wise. My in-ground persimmon's done really well this year. Unfortunately, it appears to be a male because it was a seedling plant. It would be typical that the only persimmon I've got in ground is the only one that's not a female. but my options might be to cut it back and graft onto it in future and see if I can get a few varieties on it. That's the largest fruit on my unnamed seedling one. It's not even as big as a walnut, so not really worth eating. Still got a few flower buds, just a few flowers left on my nerines, but they're virtually finished now in November. My in-ground pomegranate has lost all its leaves nearly, just a few left now. And moving over to the Triumph, this obviously does produce its fruits earlier in the season than the Mammoth, and it's probably got just 2 or 3 small immature fruits left on it now. Obviously they've stayed on because they're not quite ripe, but they're not going to get to a very decent edible size. But I've had a good crop this year from the Triumph, so I'm very pleased with that. Look at this, crazy. Just the amount of water in here is insane. In grounds, pawpaw completely dormant now, just a couple of leaves left on it. So it's all starting to quieten down this time of the year. Moving around, my carob tree looks like it tried to flower, but they never really developed the flowers. They may be male flowers anyway, I don't know on this particular plant. Some other stuff's looking pretty healthy. Here's my Natal plum, looking very, very strong. These are all reasonably hard. You should take 2 or 3 degrees of frost, so I may decide to leave it out this winter. We'll just have to see. My yuzu in ground is looking fine, nice and healthy. My kapow, Chilean guava in ground, is looking fine. I mean, the advantage of being in this raised bed is it shouldn't get too waterlogged, even with the water floating around it. The Lumera apiculata's gone insane this year, the amount it's growing. It's completely out of control. I'm going to have to cut that back quite hard this winter because I need to keep it within bounds of a sensible size. Looks like it wasn't a sensible place to plant it in this raised bed. I didn't realise it was going to grow so quickly. I thought it was going to be a slow growing member of the myrtle family, so that's completely balmy. I had no flowers. I had 1 flower this year on my yuzu, and that didn't set fruits. I've got no fruits on it this year, but it does mean it will have focused on growing and strengthening its root ball, so I'm quite happy with it. So let's just sneak through the back here. I can walk through the flooded water. Just got a couple of things to look at here. 2 of my Pakistan white mulberries, I think it's King White, have recovered from the problems I had earlier in the year, so I think I've got to try and keep these sheltered over winter so they don't get frosted in the spring. Now my in-grounds experiment, this is either a yellow cherry guava or a red strawberry guava. I'm not sure which. I'm just giving it a shake because the water really pushes the leaves down. It's done really well over summer and really recovered from any issues it had last winter, because they're really only borderline hardy, and I'm hoping it's got to a size where it's going to be tougher against the winter. But actually a lot of this growth is very young still and hasn't hardened up, so I don't know how it's going to fare. It's going to depend what sort of winter we get. Now, tucked away underneath that, I've got 2 in-grounds self-sown seedling avocados. Well, sown, I would say, courtesy of squirrels. Yeah, I've got loads and loads of seedling avocados in pots. I decided it wasn't worth worrying about digging them up. I've just left them there to see what happens as an experiment. This is my 2 passifloras I've got on the back here. I've got the maypop, which is now pretty much finished flowering, because these tend to die back to the ground when it gets cold, and I'm hoping this one's going to survive in this raised bed with better drainage. But the one next to it, the Passiflora actinia, has absolutely gone berserk. It's grown like mad. Now what's going to be interesting is how cold hardy this is going to prove to be, but it's certainly enjoyed the location here, and if this does survive the winter, I'm fully expecting to see flowers on it next early summer. But really pleased with how that's taken off since I planted it in ground. A real surprise, and it is against a nice protected fence here, so we'll see what happens. Pretty much everything else now is completely dormant at the back. Got nothing of interest to really show here. The jujubes are now completely leafless, as are most of the persimmons. However, I can quickly just show that I've still got fruits developing nicely on my Morris Burton persimmon. Just feeling them to see if they're softening, if they're getting close to be edible or not. I'm not sure this water's going to be the best thing for them. I might be forced to pick these and leave them inside to ripen, because I don't want them to rot on the plant, but I also want to leave them on until I think they're ripe. Now these are an astringent variety, being an American persimmon. Don't really seem to be that soft, the fruits. I suppose I could pick one and taste it and see just how bad the astringency is. I'm sure it would give everybody a good laugh if I try a very, very astringent persimmon, but they're not too far, I suspect, off ripeness. I'm hoping, as they're much larger than last year, that they might have a little bit of sweetness in the fruit. It would be nice. They will actually drop off when they soften up on the stem, but they won't last as long if I let them pull free of the calyx. So I might just pick one or two of these later today and see what happens. Wandering around the front again. That's really about it now. Everything else is dormant. There's a few figlets on the figs which need to be removed so they don't go too mouldy on the plants over winter. There are some medlar which got a bit scorched in the summer, but actually don't look too bad now. This tree's got 5 on it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 medlar fruits. Largest one's the one at the top there. You normally leave them until they get frosted. They call it bletting, because it's only when it goes squashy soft and starts to rot that the fruits are deemed to be edible, and even then they're not a nice, they're not, well, some people like them, but I don't think they'll be a very nice fresh fruit. I think they're a fruit that's best to be cooked into a jelly or a jam. But of course the problem with 5 fruits is not an awful lot you can do with 5 fruits. You're not exactly going to get a jar full of jelly out of it, but I might decide what to do when they get to an edible stage. All these pineapple guavas are looking fine. Excuse me, they haven't fruited this year because I left them too pot bound. My fault. I've had 1 fruit off the Marion, which I got into a bigger pot, but these other 2 here haven't fruited, but they will do, because I'm going to plant them up. I'm going to repot them into much bigger containers late in winter, and I'll give them a light trim back as well, and that should encourage some flowering, so we should get some fruits on them next year. About the only other thing left to show very quickly. Let's wander around here. My kiwi berries are all going dormant here as well. I've still got a fruit left. Now I have done a tasting of, this is unique, but I have got a better fruit on the plant, which I'm hoping to try in the next week or so, because the other one I had fell off prematurely. It was not really any bigger than that. So it does look as if I'm going to get to try unique this year. Of a decent size, so we can see if the flavour compares with the others. And that is about it. Looks like I left a fig on here which split open, and that's been a feast for the flies and the birds. There's a couple of those. Not too worried about that. I wouldn't have been eating them this time of year anyway, because I've got no flavour. There's no fruits left on my large in-ground fig tree. That's now devoid of any fruits, and even if there were any little bits and pieces, I'd be leaving them for the flies. So that's the autumn tour. Nice quick one. Obviously not too much to show this time of year, as everything's dormant, but I picked out the things that might be of interest to people, including the American persimmons. I haven't run through all the other plants, as once they've dropped their leaves there's nothing to see. The only thing that's still exciting to come will be, of course, the the pineapple guavas of the variety Mammoth, and you can see the fruits are a good size. So I'm really pleased that they've held on so long. Anyway, thanks for watching that video. Hope you enjoyed it a little bit. Please give me a thumbs up. You're welcome to share the video. If you're interested with any of these sort of fairly unusual fruit trees I'm growing for the UK, then please remember to subscribe to my channel. And if you want to see updates on things like the Mammoth fruit tasting, then please remember to click on the bell. I'll catch up with you all in the next video. Brett out for now.